This is the City of St. Mary's, Georgia City Council meeting for August 3rd, 2020. And so we're going to call this meeting to order. And we have an invocation from Council Member Linda Williams. Ms. Williams?
Yes. Gracious Heavenly Father, we are grateful that Isaias' visit here was just a whisper of wind with a kiss of rain and nothing more. Please protect those still in its path. Help all of us in this city to do our part to stop this coronavirus. Help our citizens to understand that, more importantly, mask wearing, social distancing, and hand washing are designed to keep their neighbors, friends, and family from getting the virus, rather than simply for the purpose of protecting themselves. Be with our law enforcement officers, our first responders, and our medical professionals who put themselves in harm's way to save lives. Be with those in the military around the world, men and women who sacrifice routinely to protect our freedoms. And be with all our dedicated city employees who work through viruses, hurricanes, and whatever comes to make our town a beautiful place to live. In your most holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Ms. Williams. Very nice. Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir.
Could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yes, sir. I'll be honored. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Madam Clerk, are you online?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. Could you give us the roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
Here.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Present.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Present.
Councilmember Riley, post 4.
Present.
Councilmember Rassi, post 5.
Present.
Councilmember Williams, post 6.
Present.
Mayor Morrissey.
I'm here.
Sir, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Council, and thank you, citizens and staff, for joining in tonight. The first order of business will be the approval of 2 sets of minutes. The first is July 6th, 2020, in executive session meeting minutes, which I believe you've all seen, and Council that you've seen, and July 20th, 2020, regular City Council meeting minutes. Could I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. And a
second, Mr. Mayor.
From Mr. Jones. Madam Clerk, if you could run the roster, please.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
Yay.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Yay.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Yay.
Councilmember Riley, post 4.
Yay.
Councilmember Rassi, post 5.
Yay.
Councilmember Williams, post 6.
Yay.
Mayor Morrissey.
All right, Madam Clerk, please mark that as unanimous. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Under presentations, the first is a board announcement of the vacancy for the Planning Commission. And the second is a board announcement for term expirations for the Orange Hall Management Commission and Committee, excuse me. And if anyone has any questions or is interested, there is a form to fill out, and our city clerk would be more than willing to help anybody with any questions that they might have about either finding the form or filling the form out. So please consider joining one of those organizations if you have an interest. Thank you. All right. And So, Ms. Brown, are you on? Jennifer Brown, our finance director?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Ms. Clicken will be giving the report this evening. Ms. Brown had an emergency come up, so Ms. Marshall will be doing that for her.
All right.
Yes,
So, Marcia Clicken, are you with us, please?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. I am here to do the finance report for the month ending June 2020, which is the final month in FY year 20. Is there any questions that you might have for this report?
Okay. Well, this is the mayor speaking, and this is the final report of the year, correct?
Well, it's for the month of June. The final report for the whole year will be presented to council after our audit is done in September. Right. As you all know, the general fund works off of on a cash basis, and then after the year has ended, we convert it over to a modified accrual basis. So we still have that to do. So what you see right now is just basically a snapshot, and these numbers will change.
Yes, but they do represent a 12-month period now.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Okay. That's just the point I wanted to make, that it is the 12-month. All right. Council, anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you very much. And Marcia, we'll look for the final documentation here in the next month or two. And my thanks to you and Ms. Brown and to the finance staff for putting all this together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Good night. All right. Now, Council, we're about to set the consent agenda, and please let it be known that bear with me for a minute, item H is being removed from the agenda based on a recommendation from our attorney for some review based on some documentation that was just received, I think, today. So we will consider all items from A through J, excluding item H. So can I have a council's attention to, there is no old business, so we'll start out with new business. And we have item A, which I know which we should discuss.
Yes.
Yeah. Item B.
Consent.
Sounds like, okay, consent. Item C, zoning ordinance amendment, chapter 11, zoning section.
Discuss.
Consent. I mean, de-annexation request for Big Wheel RV Park. I think we have to discuss that. Rezoning request for Mission Trace Drive from C2 to R1.
Consent.
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 Minor subdivision request for 604 West Church Street from Mr. Jeff Foster.
Consent.
Consent. Minor subdivision request for 703 West Hall Street.
Discuss.
We're going to discuss that. An assistance to firefighters grant, COVID-19, personal protective equipment.
Consent.
Consent. And Oak Grove Cemetery Ordinance Amendment, Chapter 30. Consent.
I think it should be mentioned. I think it should be mentioned why we're doing this.
Okay. All right. So we'll leave that on the agenda. All right. So, Council, the consent agenda consists of new business item B, C,
No.
E, F, and I.
Mayor Morrissey, I think one of the council members.
Pardon me?
You said
Hello?
B, but, oh shit. You said B, but that's to be discussed, B.
No, we said at this point, at least what originally we said was we wanted to discuss item A. And then I heard.
You're right.
I
stand
okay,
corrected.
I heard.
I'm sorry.
No, that's quite all right. So let me just go over, just to be clear, in case there is a question. So the consent agenda consists of item B, excuse me, B, C, E, F, and I. So are we, if we're in agreement, could I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Mayor Riley, make motion we approve the consent agenda as read.
I heard Mr. Gant first, so could I have a second then from Mr. Riley? All right. Madam Clerk, could you do the roster, please?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
Yay.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Yay.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Yay.
Councilmember Riley, post 4.
Yay.
Councilmember Rassi, post 5.
Yay.
Councilmember Williams, post 6.
Yay.
Mayor Morrissey.
All right, madam, if you would record that as unanimous. Thank you, council.
Yes, sir.
And so now if I could have a motion for approval of the agenda as set.
So moved. Hardy.
Mr. Jones, and how about a second?
Second,
Second, Williams.
All right, I got a second from Mr. Rassi. All right, Madam Clerk, roster, please.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
Yay.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Yay.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Yay.
Councilmember Riley, post 4.
Yay.
Councilmember Rassi, post 5.
Yay.
Councilmember Williams, post 6.
Yay.
Mayor Morrissey.
All right, Madam Clerk, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, Madam Clerk, granting audience to the public relative to what's on the approved agenda. Do we have any speakers?
We do have, sir. We have a Miss Shawita
No.
Mrisha,
What's on the
but
approved?
that item was removed. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead.
No, that's all right. Go ahead, continue.
Oh, I was going to say, but that item was removed. But we
All right,
do have her on the line.
Okay, the citizen will be able to speak to the issue at the second granting audience to the public.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So are there any other citizens that'd like to speak?
No, sir. We had no one else that signed up.
Okay, good. All right, so there being no old business, we'll move right into our new business. So the first is the Port of St. Mary's Plan Development District text amendment. So I'm going to ask our city manager, Mr. Robbie Horton, to frame this up and go from there. Robbie?
Well, actually, I'm going to eventually turn it over to Mr. Hughes. But basically, this was a rework of the existing ordinance to make it easier to understand, clarify some things. Everything that was in the original document is in this document as well. But I'll let Mr. Hughes speak on that at this time.
All right.
Thank you.
So, if I may, for everybody's benefit, this is Mr. Kenneth Hughes. He's our Community Development Director.
Thank you, Mayor. So this, when the Port of St. Mary's was originally adopted into the Code of Ordinances, there were special conditions that were added onto it, and it was really intended for a port-like use. With the proposed development on the old paper mill site, it's appropriate at this time for us to revisit it and reorganize it to allow for everything to flow a little bit better and for our staff to have a better ability to enforce it. So that's what this ordinance does. It includes all the provisions that were previously in there. And anything that was, changed in wording was highlighted in the packet that y'all received. So I'd be happy to take any questions that y'all have at this time.
Okay, council, anyone in particular, please speak.
It's my understanding that there will be further changes that have to do with the industrial district. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We have an application for a map amendment, which will be heard by the Planning Commission in August and City Council in September.
All right. Anyone else? Okay. So Mr. Hughes, I want to compliment you on a very difficult task. And the document was very orderly, and I think a number of the council people have done the comparisons, as you mentioned, of the transfer of all the information, and it was very thorough. And the new text amendment additions are also very lucid, and we appreciate the way that you've attacked this, and that was quite a bit of homework, so our thanks for that. And I think based on that, if there's no more questions, I think, could I have a motion?
Mayor Riley, I make we approve the ordinance amendment.
All right, Mr. Riley, thank you. Could I have a second, please?
Second from Williams.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right. Madam Clerk, can you do the roster for us, please?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
Aye.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Yay.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Yay.
Councilmember Riley, post 4.
Yay.
Councilmember Rassy, post 5.
Yay.
Councilmember Williams, post 6.
Yay.
Mayor Morrissey.
And Madam Clerk, will you please mark that as
Unanimous?
6-0? Yes, yeah. So
Yes, sir.
I would just like to say again, thank you to council and to staff, but also to the public. The additions that are in the text amendment is going to create a project that is, I think, far more balanced than we could ever have dreamed. Of course, having it turn into what it is that we hope it's going to be is another thing, but I think I have confidence in the implementation of this project. But it is it's far more substantive in many ways as far as a balanced community than I think we were expecting, and I think it's a tribute to everybody that's working to try and make this happen. So thank you to everyone. Now the next is item D, is the de-annexation request for Big Wheel RV Park, and Mr. Horton, is Mr. Marr on, or are you going to speak to this?
I'll speak to it, but what happened? Did we take care of item C, Mayor?
Item C was consented.
Okay, my apologies. I know we had B consented. I didn't know we had C. My apologies.
Yep.
In regards to the de-annexation request for Big Wheel RV Park by Karen Moody, you've got a request to be de-annexed. A little bit of history on that. When that was originally built back in the early 2000s, they requested from the city to be annexed in. And that request was granted. And now they're coming back and requesting to be de-annexed. So that's kind of the quick history on the situation. And that's what I have this time, sir.
Right. Do we know when that occurred? I'm sorry. I mean, you may have said it and I missed it.
It was in the early 2000s. I remember it happening and everything, but I don't have the date that occurred, sir. I apologize.
That's all right. I think it's a perspective. Thank you. Okay, council, could I have well, let's do this. Are there any discussion topics or questions for Mr. Horton?
I'd like to address this a little bit. I don't see any reason to de-annex. If anything, we should be annexing places where we have islands throughout the city, which has been a big problem for a long time. We need to keep our city together and not create other pockets. So this also sets a very dangerous precedent for other property and what have you to de-annex or request to de-annex. So I would be very opposed to doing this.
Mayor, can I ask
Mr.
a question?
Yes, please.
It's very strange that a person would ask to be annexed into the city. Is there any particular reason why they wanted to be annexed in the beginning?
Mr. Horton?
Let Mr. Hughes address that. He has had conversations with them. So, Mr. Hughes would.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. When the RV park was being proposed, it was out in the county, and the county did not have any permission or a zoning scheme which allowed for the RV park to be permitted, and the city of St. Mary's did. So in order to allow the use to happen, it was requested to be annexed into the city.
All right, thank you.
I see.
Okay. All right. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, with respect to annexing, de-annexing, we really need to keep the master plan in mind. And the master plan has us eventually trying to annex these little pockets, as Mr. Gant said. I think, like Mr. Gant, it is extremely fraught with peril to take and de-annex a place and then have us trying to execute the master plan in the future. And that, we'd have to do what this particular Big Wheel RV park is trying to do, which is to reverse an action we took just a couple years ago. So I really don't see that there's much value in that. There's not a whole lot of gain. There's services that the city provides. There's not a whole lot in taxes and things like that on that piece of property. I checked that. So that's my 2 cents. Thanks.
All right. Anyone else? All right. Could I have a motion relative to this line item, please, for de-annexation request by Big Wheel RV Park?
Move to disapprove this request.
All right, and that was from Mr. Gant. How about a second?
Second, Riley.
All right, Mr. Riley. Madam Clerk, can you run the roster, please?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
Yay.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Yay.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Yay.
Councilmember Riley, post 4.
Yay.
Councilmember Rassi, post 5.
Yay.
Councilmember Williams, post 6.
Yay.
Mayor Morrissey.
All right. Madam Clerk, you mark that 6-0?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Council. For the next item is G, the minor subdivision request for 703 Hall Street by Jeff Foster. And it is for Pond River Farms LLC, a 1 lot to 2 lot conversion. So, Mr. Horton, do you want to frame this? You want to have Mr. Hughes do it?
I'll let Mr. Hughes do it.
All right, Mr. Hughes.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a request by Pond River Farms to separate the parcel located there on Hall Street into two separate parcels for residential building lots. The parcel that's there is 100 by 218, so it's 21,800 square feet in size, and they're requesting to split it into two lots, both over 10,000 square feet, and with the minimum required lot frontage or access easement as required in the ordinance. The Planning Commission found that it met all the criteria set forth in the subdivision section of the code, so they recommend it for approval to you all. There were some letters that you all received from neighbors that raise opposition for various reasons.
Mm-hmm. Right. All right. Thank you, Mr. Hughes. And Council, I think you've seen in the council package remarks from the neighbors in the community. So I think we'll go into discussion prior to making any kind of a motion or a recommendation. And so any one of you would like to start conversation on this item?
Mr. Mayor, this is Riley again, and I would like to start the conversation. As you read the letters and hear from the people that live adjacent to that property, their complaint is that it's they're going to lose a lot of tree canopy, and there may be some noise depending on what type families move into those homes, and you can't really predict that far out. But also, if I understand the bill right, it's an extremely good builder. He builds quality homes, and I think that the property would be well developed. But what I would like to see happen, because I'm sure if the builder knew of the people's angst about that, he'd be willing to chat with them. I'd like to see an opportunity where there be some communication between the builder and the existing tenants around that property that's being proposed to be subdivided and developed, and if they can't come to some agreement with respect to maybe tree canopy, how they could ensure that the people's privacy stays and so forth. So if we could set something like that, it's like Mr. Hughes said, the property and the proposed building of homes is in complete compliance with our ordinances. So it's hard not to prove something like that, but I'm sure that if we could get the developer and the people to discuss what it would take to satisfy their concerns, we might have a more amenable development on that property. Over.
Okay. Thank you. Who's next?
It's unfortunate. We had probably about, I guess there were about 5 that neighbors that objected to 2 houses. They didn't have any problem with 1 house, but 2 houses would be, to their point of view, detrimental to their properties. Unfortunately, our ordinances don't really support not supporting the developer's request. We've already done a couple of these flag lots on properties, and we've set an example of it. And I support Councilman Riley's idea that get the developer to sit down with the neighborhood and see if they can't work out some kind of an accommodation, at least to better screen, the best way to screen the proposed construction.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gann. Who's next?
Mayor, I spent a fair bit of time earlier today, talking with Mr. Boyles and looking at the property and sharing with him some of the recent houses that this developer has built. And I guess the main push that I would like to make ties in with something that Mr. Riley mentioned, and that is that could we place a stipulation that the builder do his very best to preserve 25% of the mature trees on these two lots? I spoke with Mr. Hughes earlier today as well, and this doesn't seem like it would be an unreasonable request. I'd like to know if we can add that when we make the motion.
Okay. All right, thank you. And anyone else?
Mr. Goodman,
Yes, sir.
I agree with the sentiments of the neighbors who are most directly affected by this, that it is going to be detrimental to their property values. It's going to be distasteful. It jams people in together, and I am opposed to it. I do understand that we have painted ourselves, or the city of St. Mary's has painted itself into a sticky wicket by approving densities of this nature. And I would suggest to this council that this is a warm-up. This is a prelude to what we're going to see if we continue the densification of St. Mary's. So I am opposed to it. Fundamentally, I will probably reflect that in my vote, understanding that it's going to be dependent on whether the interpretation of the previous acts and the code as written is going to thwart that process. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir. All right, who's next?
Do we have any, and this is for Kenneth, do we have any way that we can influence this decision, or is it we have to follow exactly what has been recommended?
My understanding of it, and maybe Attorney Amanda is on the call, I believe, is that you're allowed to add reasonable conditions that would aid you in ensuring its compliance with the ordinance. But Amanda, I think, can better speak to that if she's able to be here.
Amanda, before we get to that, is there anybody else on the council would like to weigh in on this before we go to the lawyer?
Okay. I haven't said anything about it, but
yes, sir.
There are several things that I'm kind of concerned about. First of all, if the developer jumped through all the hoops.
Yeah. So we need everyone to, sorry, this is the mayor. We need everyone to mute their phones, please, if you're not speaking. Feedback's really bad. Thank you. All right, Mr. Jones, let's try again.
Okay. I'm just concerned about, well, I have several concerns. I can understand the property owners are around there and their distaste for small lots. I can understand that fully. And especially when it comes to trees, I hate to see any trees destroyed unnecessarily, but the property owner has the right to remove all the trees and clear cut it if he so desires. But I would hope that he would get with the people in that community and try to work something out where he could preserve as many trees as possible. And the second thing is that if he's jumped through all the hoops and did everything he's supposed to, we're pretty much bound by the law to allow him to do it unless we change our ordinances. And I think it's there throughout the city. So even though I think it may be a problem with the neighbors in the area now, I think that we'll be setting ourselves up for an unnecessary lawsuit if we didn't grant this.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Kolsky, are you there? Amanda? You're probably on mute. Amanda?
Yes, sorry, I'm here.
Okay. So listen, no, that's quite all right. So let me, okay, everybody, please mute your phones if you're not on. Okay. All right. So, Amanda, there's been a couple of approaches considered here, and I think from a legal standpoint, one of them starts out with, can we add comments or conditions to the existing ordinance if we approve, or really secondarily, is it really more appropriate for council to send this back to the planning commission to try and get the parties to ameliorate in some way the concerns of the neighbors, and then bring it back to city council? Can you give us some advice on that?
Sure. Because this is a subdivision question, it's really just a question of whether the plat should be approved. It's not the phase where development issues are discussed. And so this is really more about the creation of two lots. I would suggest that there may be another phase down the line where it may be appropriate to impose some development restrictions, possibly building permits.
Well, that's to me, that's somewhat conditional, and it's not. I think, in my way of thinking, we should start out with a clear goal in mind, rather than taking the position that they may be able to find a solution once we get down into the workings of the detail. Because if there's no resolution at the detail level, then I think all the somebody's going to be aggrieved. Quite frankly, council, right now, I think the planning commission meets when, Mr. Hughes?
August 18th, I believe.
Okay, so in approximately 2 weeks, between now and 2 weeks, we could ask the parties to meet to see if perhaps the builders and developers could offer some suggestions about how they would develop the property that would be more amenable to the public and to the people that live around it. So I'm not sure. First of all, Amanda, is that is proper, if I understand it right, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So do you have some opinion about the different paths that we can take?
Well, Mr. Hughes may be able to weigh in on that. I think permitting is done at the staff level, it's my understanding.
Right.
And so I'm not really sure what all is customary there, but my concern with the plat is that the requirements for the plat to be met, and the council can require certain aspects to come into compliance with those requirements, but beyond that, I don't think this would be the appropriate phase to do that.
Right. So this is where Mr. Jones, you know, and others on the council are really right. Is the ordinance, the way it's written, is very prescribed, and we have set precedent before in approving flag lots without any of the conditions that we're talking about right now. I feel that in the spirit of good citizenship, and it's because it's only 2 weeks. Now, the problem is it would take another month to come back unless we had a special call meeting to make sure things are timely, which we could do if requested. So, council, you know, I am, you know, I don't vote, but I'm leaning towards seeing if we can get the parties to sit down and talk together and find out if there's something that would make the neighborhood feel better about the project and how it's designed. So,
Mayor,
I don't know how you, yeah. Yes, sir.
I agree with what you just stated. It seems like we've got concerned parties on both ends that just need to sit down and discuss. And I don't know what would hurt for us not to just postpone this for a couple weeks or a month just to iron out all those issues prior to coming back to us for a vote. I think it'll bring resolution to this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Horton, I would ask that if we go in that direction, again, we don't know that we're doing that yet, but if we go in that direction, can you work with Mr. Hughes and the Planning Commission to determine what's the best method to bring the parties to the table to figure out if there's some design ideas that would make everyone feel more comfortable?
Yes, sir, we certainly can.
Okay, so council, I don't know where your thinking is. Do you want to proceed with approval with some kind of thought process about can we indeed, you know, put some kind of requests on the parties, or would you like to send it back to the Planning Commission?
I think it'd be appropriate to send it back to the Planning Commission and just table it from our perspective until they can come back and hopefully have some kind of resolution that's somewhat acceptable to all the parties.
I can second that motion if that's a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Well, let me ask Miss Amanda. If we send this back to Planning Commission, do we have to motion that?
I think that would be the best move for that, but I would like to mention that there is a 30-day window in which the council has to review the plat following the Planning Commission's recommendation.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And
okay.
so I'm not if the next Planning Commission would allow for this to be on the next council agenda.
Well, now that I think about it, you're making it clear. If we have our community development director and our city manager working with the parties involved, I'm not sure that it specifically has to go in front of the Planning Commission as an item. What we're trying to do is get the parties involved to talk to one another. And it may not have to be a Planning Commission item, so that, I'm thinking out loud here, everyone, so we could ask the city manager and the community development director to try and coordinate a meeting with the parties involved, see if they could make people feel more comfortable about it. If they can, then we can bring it and finish it up at the next council meeting. Would that work? Is that legal?
It sounds like a winner.
Okay, so that's a tasking, Amanda.
Do we table this, Mayor, or what?
Yeah, Amanda, would you like a motion for us to task the city manager to do that?
Yes, and also if the decision to table it, the motion to table.
Yes, okay. So I think Mr. Gant is in the middle of that motion. Mr. Gant?
Oh, okay. I move that we table this item and send it to the city manager and planning director to get all the parties together to try to work out some kind of reasonable accommodation to all the parties.
And bring it back at the next council meeting.
And bring it back at the next council meeting.
Okay, so that's Mr. Gant. Do I have a second?
Riley, second.
Okay, Mr. Riley. Madam Clerk, I'm sorry, any more discussion, council? Okay, Madam Clerk, can you run the roster, please?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
Yay.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Yay.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Yay.
Councilmember Riley, post 4.
Yay.
Councilmember Rassi, post 5.
Yay.
Councilmember Williams, post 6.
Yay.
Mayor Morrissey.
Madam Clerk, that's unanimous.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And council, for some thought, and I think you may see some things from us in the future. But to Mr. Goodman's point, this raised questions, I think, amongst many of the council people about the current ordinance design in this area. And we do have lots of precedents as far as flag lots. But as we look at the ordinance when it comes to vegetation, the area in the ordinance about vegetation really doesn't start until you have a 5-lot subdivision. And here's an example. Actually, there's 2 examples here, council. Both of the lots that we were involved in approving or trying to decide about approving were both an acre, and they have a full canopy if you look at the overviews in St. Mary's. So, we are a tree city. So Mr. Horton and I have discussed possibly having some kind of a discussion, I don't know, a work session or whatever, for council to be able to discuss the existing ordinance when it comes to tree canopy. And, we're cognizant that builders need to be able to build, but we've got neighbors, and we've got trees, and we're a tree city. So we probably need to have that kind of a discussion about does that ordinance need to have some, be refined a bit, and we're going to bring that back to you. Okay, but thank you very much for the vote. Madam Clerk, you've got it as unanimous. And now
yes,
we're going down to Oak Grove Cemetery Ordinance Amendment, Chapter 30. Now, Mr. Gant, did you want to speak to this, or did you have questions?
Well, no, I do not have any questions. I think it is something that is a sad testament to our beautiful, wonderful Oak Grove Cemetery that people don't want to put a headstone up or a marker, and they're having trouble to get to do that because we have to have markers on the grave of some sort. And then the idea of changing the time because we want to defer stealing things out of the cemetery is just sad, so sad. I've heard this all through my many years here in St. Mary's, and it's no less sad than when I first heard it many years ago. But I would suggest that they come up with some kind of fee or whatever that could be assessed if a headstone or a marker isn't put up and you can't get the folks to do anything about it. There has to be some way to fund that, and it shouldn't come out of the city money. It should come out of the relatives of the deceased. So I just want to bring that up. I'm all for it. I think it's what we need to do. I know Jim is very much into the cemetery. I'd like to hear his thoughts.
Mr. Goodman? Mr. Goodman? Did you want to weigh in?
Yes, I'm sorry. Was I on mute?
Yes, sir, you were.
Yeah, well, that's unfortunate because I made a wonderful introductory speech. I'll try to capture that again. Thank you, Jim Gant, for acknowledging the volunteer efforts that myself and my friend Martha Bailey contribute. We've seen you there many times. And we also know that your example of your memorialization is outstanding. And, if I may be so personal with you as to compliment you on that, it is a source of great beauty for the cemetery. I have a couple of observations about the hours, and I agree with the proposals that Kay Westbury has made. However, I would like to ask the indulgence of the council to consider a slight modification to it. And I will set that up by prefacing it this way. Most of the mornings, we and Jerry Sizemore open the cemetery. Jerry takes the weekends off, of course, and very often Jerry spontaneously takes the mornings off, and we need to address that because we need a little bit more notice and a little more warning on any given morning that we might be compelled to go by and open it. Although it's no problem to us to do it, we just need to know about it in advance. Very few times does Ms. Westbury open the cemetery in any case. She does not do it on the weekend. She does not do it on normal workday mornings when Jerry Sizemore reports to work and opens it. Ms. Bailey and myself lock the cemetery 3 nights a week, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday consistently, and very often are called upon to do it other nights of the week, and we're glad to do it. When Mr. Horton very wisely ordered the time modification back to 7 p.m. because of COVID, we felt that was a very, very wise step because we do have difficulty getting people out of that cemetery in the evening. They'll rush past us, and we have to go and ask them politely, and it is always politely, to please limit their visit to as brief a time as they can because we're going to be locking the cemetery, and we have been able to lock it at 7 p.m. We want to be consistent with that. So rather than 7:30 p.m., because we most often do it on the weekends, 3 nights a week, we want to see that at 7 p.m. There are no other volunteers that do this other than a family member who is volunteered by Kay to do it when we cannot do it, and she has to be out of town. So with this indulgence, because we do feel like it is a deterrent to theft, because we do feel like we need consistency, we'd like to see that at 7 p.m. as Mr. Horton has prescribed, continue it at 7 p.m. to avoid confusion and to provide for consistencies in that. And we do think that limits it by at least another 30 minutes, any opportunity for somebody to be in there unsupervised and unnoticed. We have to have time to get to our respective homes after we lock that cemetery, and sundown and 7 p.m. works best for Miss Bailey. She lives out of town. So that is all I need to say.
Well, that was a great explanation and detail. Thank you, Jim. For a lot of people, I think that didn't know the investment by many people, yourself included, to make sure that cemetery is there for everyone, and it's safe and it's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. So, Mr. Goodman, would you like to create the motion for this with the slight adjustment you mentioned?
I'll do my best. Am I now on unmute again because this button is very hard to see?
Yeah, we're hearing you.
Very good. Thank you. I make a motion that the operational hours and other operational provisions of the Oak Grove Cemetery as set forth very eloquently in a letter by Ms. Kay Westbury be adopted, with the exception of having a 7 p.m. or sunset, whichever is earliest, hour of closing for Oak Grove Cemetery.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Goodman. How about a second?
Second, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Madam Clerk, can you run the roster?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
Yay.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Yay.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Yay.
Councilmember Riley, post 4.
Yay.
Councilmember Rassy, post 5.
Yay.
Councilmember Williams, post 6.
Yay.
Mayor Morrissey.
Madam Clerk, will you mark that as unanimous?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Horton, may we have the report of the city manager?
Yes, sir. It's going to be fairly short tonight. As most of you know, we have been dealing with a hurricane that has run up the coastlines of Florida and Georgia today and is beginning to start to work on the coastline of South Carolina and on up north even further. We closed City Hall for today's operations, normal operations. We did set up a cut team, which is, it has police, fire, and public works that respond if we get trees down or anything down. And between all three agencies, they're able to deal with whatever may happen. We've also been monitoring our water system and our sewer system through all of this beginning early this morning. Around 1:30, the decision was made by the 3 primary department heads and myself that we could send those that were working over, we could send them on home because basically it was a non-event. We were prepared and we've exercised our plans for this season, and hopefully we won't have to need to do it again this season, but we encourage all the citizens to please stay vigilant. There is another storm that's out there. Currently, it's not far off of Bermuda, so please pay attention to that. There was no damage reported and no storm-related incidents at all. In regards to the shrimp project, the front of City Hall is open. They are in the process of finishing the side of City Hall. If citizens are coming to do business, please go to the front of the building, enter through the main doors of City Hall. From there, that's where you will be directed, just like we've been doing out of the back door. But everybody needs to go to the front door for the next week or so, because that's where even employees are going to have to enter the structure in order to go to work. But you'll report right there to the customer service representatives, and you will be sent, or the necessary folks will be contacted to assist you. Just FYI, our bioretention ponds and our new drainage system have been put to the test this past week, and I'm going to tell you, they have really, really worked. We have encountered some issues, but it was not because of the drainage or the ponds, retention ponds. It was actually some of our guttering on City Hall, which we're going to be replacing. In the process, we also found some significant water damage on the front of City Hall that we're going to need to do emergency repairs on. The major support members in front of the planning and building doors has had some serious deterioration and are going to need to be replaced. We're to the point where we're getting close to where we might lose the roof in front of that part of the building. So we're working on that. We'll have more details on that later. FYI, we are putting out a request for qualifications for the multi-use path on Colerain. And we will be putting out bids in the next couple of weeks on the marina project, for construction of the marina project. So we're really excited about seeing both of those kick off and seeing them move. And really and truly, Mr. Mayor, that's all I can report right now because I've been kind of occupied with the storm.
All right.
Mr. Horton.
Yes, sir.
I have one question. Did we get our permits for the marina?
They are seeing movement. They have had one step that has been approved, and they're anticipating that last step being done sometime this week, if not next week.
Hallelujah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. So, Mr. Horton,
Yes, sir.
to be facetious for a second, everyone, your assignment is to make all the hurricanes act like the one that we just had today. I think that if we had that kind of performance out of all the hurricanes that may threaten us, we're going to be in good shape. But seriously, I know we need to make sure that we're paying attention, folks, and EMA at the county level and locally here through our own task groups will keep you informed if we have any kind of events. Thank you for the staff and everyone that worked on this, Robbie. Tell them thank you.
Yes, sir. We'll certainly do it, and I've already written down your request, and me and the big man will have that conversation this evening.
Yes, sir. Okay. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we're at granting audience to the public, and can you contact the citizens so that they can join us?
Ms. Sharita may still be on the line.
Okay. Ma'am, are you on mute? All right. So this is your opportunity to discuss your item relative to your request to maintain animals on the property. So, all right. This will come back to council at some point in time once we have the work done that needs to be done by the legal team, and they're advised back to us. So, all right, with that being said, and we don't have anyone else waiting for granting audience to the public, ma'am?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. Then could you take us to the calendar, please?
Yes, sir. On Wednesday, August 5th at 5 o'clock, the Downtown Development Authority meeting will take place in Main Street office. On Thursday, August 6th at 2 o'clock p.m., we have the tree board meeting in council chambers. On Friday, August 7th at 9 o'clock a.m., we have St. Mary's Municipal Court plea and arraignments in council chambers. On Monday, August 10th at 8:30 a.m., we have the Downtown Development Authority meeting in the Main Street office. On Tuesday, August 11th at 6 o'clock p.m., we have the Stormwater Enterprise Committee meeting in the Main Street office. On Thursday, August 13th at 9:30 a.m., we have the Orange Hall Management Committee meeting in council chambers. Also on Thursday, August 13th at 5 o'clock p.m., the St. Mary's Intracoastal Gateway Committee meeting in the Main Street office, followed by the 6 o'clock p.m. Hospital Authority meeting in council chambers, and on Monday, August 17th at 6 o'clock, City Council meeting.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. Council, if I may, Mr. Jones, we want to start. Any kind of comments for closing?
Mayor, only thing I want to say is thanks to all of the workers for the city, especially our law enforcement officers. You know, they have really stepped up to the plate and they're doing a great job in the community. As far as I'm hearing from the community the people in this community. Also, I want to thank the staff for keeping us safe and doing the things that they've been doing around City Hall during this COVID epidemic. I just want to let everybody know that this is real. We need to do like we're supposed to, mask up and don't be ashamed, because I have a lot of friends that's died, and hospitals are full of them right now. So just be safe and remember that we're all in this together. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Amen, sir. Thank you. And Mr. Goodman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to echo Mr. Jones's sentiments in regards to COVID, to take it seriously. And I'd also like to thank our colleague, Ms. Williams, and for following up with the excellent communications from Your Honor the Mayor in keeping people informed and also adding to it another dimension. And so thank you, Ms. Williams, for doing that. I have to tell you, members of the council, that I got a high temperature communication from Ms. Bailey in regards to making the misstatement that she lives out of town. She lives in St. Mary's. She stays out of town on the weekend due to her daughter's illness. So she wanted to be sure that you know that this is her town, and she loves it very much. So I stand corrected on that. And I would like to add my compliments also to the city staff, to Mr. Horton for your leadership. And I was going to say that we had never had a city manager before who was able to manage storms the way he did. But I think the mayor expressed it even more eloquently, and I appreciate everything that Robbie and the staff did. There were a lot of meetings and things, and we are disappointed that we didn't get more rain, but we're certainly not disappointed that we didn't get a lot of wind. And thank you for listening to me. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Gant.
Well, I just want to echo the COVID warnings, and it's amazing to me that it seemed like not that long ago when we just had a couple affected here in the county. Now we're over 600. It was, I think, 4 deaths is the latest. This thing's not going away. It keeps going up. We just pray and pray that it's going to find its peak and die a quick death. And everybody stay safe with a mask and social distancing and washing your hands and whatever. This is a terrible pandemic, and we need to all work together to defeat it. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Riley. Mr. Riley? Mr. Rassi, why don't you go and Mr. Riley can come back.
Yes, sir. I'd like to echo what our previous council members shared about the pandemic, and just be wise, take care of your families and your health. And I'd also like to ask, we all need to be praying as schools. Everybody goes back to school tomorrow in Camden County. For those that are comfortable sending their kids to school, we just pray for the teachers, the faculty, and administrators of the school system and the student body. And for those that have felt the need to teach their children at home, we just pray through virtual education that we just keep our thoughts and prayers. Remember when you're driving around the schools to really obey the speed limits and look out for the kids as they're crossing the roads and keep them safe. And then it's been shared on Facebook, and I'll share it with everybody now. And I just got a brief statement. It says the board of directors of the Kiwanis Club of St. Mary's has formally voted to cancel our 2020 Rock Shrimp Festival for the same reason we canceled it on our Independence Day celebration. We have a lot of things we have to do way ahead of time. We're doing it too much in advance to cancel it. But, and I believe Council Member Gant said it best, this thing ain't going away. And we're trying to look out for everyone's safety and well-being. And our fireworks companies done a fantastic job of just working with us, and they're going to go ahead and work with us and move we're not having to pay a penalty or for storage or anything. They're really working with us to ensure that we can have fireworks next 4th of July, and hopefully that'll be a celebration to the end of the pandemic, as well as our patriotic independence. So that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Riley.
Dave, I'm back on,
Yes,
but I'll
sir.
wait till Ms. Williams finishes, and I'd like to make my comments then if possible. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Williams?
Well, Mr. Mayor and Council, I just want to repeat the idea that I mentioned in my prayer earlier. And that is the idea that masking, social distancing, and hand washing and other hygienic procedures are not really meant to protect the person who does them, but to protect the people around that person, the friends, neighbors, and family members who are endangered by people who are often asymptomatic. They don't even realize that they have this coronavirus, and yet they are infecting others. The virus is not slowing down. We're at 689 cases in Camden County today. 689 cases. And there's an 11% positive rate across the state of Georgia of the testing that's been done. 11%. And that's going up, actually, from what it has been. So please, 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 try to follow these measures, not for you, but for all of the rest of the people around you. I've said my piece. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Riley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I went to hit the unmute button and I hit the off button. They sit right side by side, so I apologize. I was going to talk a little bit about COVID, but it's been talked about extensively, and each of my colleagues on the dais have eloquently expressed my feelings perfectly. And Ms. Williams, thanks for that beautiful prayer tonight, and thank you for so eloquently saying what is our responsibility to protect the people around us. I, for one, appreciate that. And with respect to Mr. Horton and all of the staff that participated in the dry run, thank God it was a dry run. And dry runs are good from the standpoint, and me being an old sailor, it's especially true because we dry run everything. You'll perform much better if we are unfortunate enough to get the real thing later. So thank you, Mr. Horton, and all the city staff that made our city safe during this hurricane, for all the work that led up to being there. With respect to the Winding Road Connector, you're right. We are all very happy that RFQ is going out. That's a big step in connecting our Tabby Trail to the East Coast Greenway. And we are very fortunate to have won that grant. And once we finish this portion, we'll be able to go into the construction portion. And the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program moves. We're going to try and have that in by October 1st. We got the pre-application package today, and we'll be meeting very frequently to put the entire package together. We've already started on that work, as a matter of fact. So we look forward to good things with respect to moving a very, very important part of our city forward, and that being the multi-use paths that are being developed. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I have.
All right, everybody, I'll just close very quickly here. One of the things that you saw, citizens, is a unified message coming from the cities and the county, and it was Mask Up Camden, and that's a campaign slogan that you have heard and you will hear again. And everyone spoke very eloquently, as Mr. Riley said, to why we need to do what we have to do when it comes to masking at a minimum. So thank you for that. I want to put a little kudos out to Angela Wigger and the Convention and Visitors Bureau, et cetera, for the city of St. Mary's being named one of the 10 best small cities on the East Coast. It was quite an honor, and so I know she was quite excited, as we were all, and it's nothing like having your name there along some of those pretty exciting spots along the Atlantic coast to visit. So, and we're one of them. So mighty proud of that. And I just wanted to make sure we shout out to our citizens to remind them that we did get that award. And if you see our tourism director, make sure you let her know how excited we all are about that. So thank you. And so council, we have an action item, I think some learnings from one of our action items on the agenda we'll follow up with. And finally, as I mentioned to everybody last meeting, we're still in the middle of early voting, and you can do that over at the Annex building at the corner of Gross Road and Route 40. And I think it lasts through Friday, and then voting is Tuesday the 11th. So please, if you haven't voted, and if you're considering voting, so if you go early or if you go on election day, to be able to exercise your rights. Thank you. So
Mr. Mayor.
That being said, yes.
Mr. Mayor, real quick, and I apologize. There was one more thing I needed to let y'all know and let the citizens know, especially. The Hawk signal at the St. Mary's Elementary School on Charlie Smith, that is in place. So if people are traveling down Charlie Smith in the morning or tomorrow afternoon and that light starts flashing and they see a red light, that means to stop. People are trying to cross the road. Yellow means to slow down because it's fixing to go red. And we're hopefully going to get something put out on Facebook sometime tomorrow on that. But we just need to make sure everybody's aware of what those flashing lights mean. That is for our children crossing the road to go to middle school. And that's been a long effort that's been going on for 6 years to get that put in place. And it's here, it's now, it's going to help protect our kids. So I apologize again, Mr. Mayor, and I'm done.
That's important. Thank you very much. There is no executive session, so if I could have a motion for adjournment.
Mr. Mayor,
Riley.
Okay, Ms. Williams, I got a motion from Ms. Williams, so I have a second. It sounds like from Mr. Riley.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, Ms. Walker-Reed, can you run the roster, please?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
Yay.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Yay.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Yay.
Councilmember Riley, post 4.
Yay.
Councilmember Rassi, post 5.
Yay.
Councilmember Williams, post 6.
yay.
Mayor Morrissey.
Madam Clerk, that's unanimous. Thank you very much,
Yes,
Council. Thank you, citizens, for attending the City Council meeting for the City of St. Mary's, Georgia for August 3rd. Good night, everyone. Have a great evening.
You too. Bye.
Good night.